Welcome to Box Free with Stephanie. Today I want to show you how to make some basic foods with simple ingredients from scratch. And I hope that you discover cooking from scratch and box free is fast and delicious. So let's cook together. Today we're going to try to make three things. We're going to make Queen's apples, which is basically caramel sauce with apples. We're going to make kettle corn, and we're going to make candied pecans. So let's just start cooking. The first thing we're going to do, I've got my stove heated up here. We are going to make our caramel sauce for our Queen's apples. So I need half a cup of brown sugar. You can use light or dark, but I just use light for this typically. Packed brown sugar, half a cup. And I need a quarter cup of heavy whipping cream. And we're going to boil this in our pan. Okay, and then we'll take a wooden spoon, and we want this to come to a boil, not a real strong rolling boil, but this is going to be our caramel sauce. You can see that it's slowly starting to get bubbles. It's all mixed together very nicely. The cream is making the brown sugar dissolve. That's what we're looking for. We are making Queen's apples today, which are basically fresh apples with caramel sauce. And I call it Queen's apples because when I was about 10, my mom took me and my sister and brother down to the Renaissance Festival. And I don't remember a whole lot except that it was really cool and funky. But I do remember one of the things we got to eat was Queen's apples, which were basically big chunks of apples with this delicious caramel sauce on it. And then the rest of my childhood, every time we had apples with caramel sauce, my mom would call it Queen's apples. And so today we're making Queen's apples because there are so many apples all over right now. I have just some that I got off a tree in town. So while this is kind of bubbling here, I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more. I'm going to prepare my apples. So I've already washed them. I can use my little apple slicer. And then I like to make these kind of bigger pieces, I guess, because there's the Queen, everything in the Queen should be big and luxurious. So big bite-sized pieces about that big. Put them in a bowl. Stir my caramel sauce again here. And I'm going to finish slicing. When you're making caramel sauce, it's really fast and easy to make this recipe. It's one of the fastest things I like to make if I really don't have a dessert and I kind of forgot and I think like, oh, what should I make? This caramel sauce can be used on cheesecake and on ice cream, brownies, I mean, anything you can imagine. So my pan is a little bit low heat right now. I don't want it to burn. So I'm going to just wait for it to heat up a little bit longer. What I'm looking for in this is a nice light rolling boil. I don't want it boiling so strong and fast that it's actually burning it, but I'm not getting many bubbles yet. And I do want it to bubble because then it's kind of almost caramelizing. So because I'm using brown sugar, people would say that this is not a true caramel sauce, that this is more of a butterscotch sauce. Because when you're making official caramel sauce, you have white sugar and you add your butter to it and then you actually caramelize it, or you add water, I guess, actually sugar and water, and you caramelize the white sugar and make it nice and brown. Then you add your butter and vanilla and all your other stuff. Where this, when you start with brown sugar, is more of a butterscotch sauce, but like who cares? It's delicious, and butterscotch and caramel are similar. So I call it a caramel sauce, and you can keep any extras in the fridge that you haven't used up. Okay, now my caramel sauce is beginning to bubble a little bit the way I want it to. I need some of that bubbling. And once that is nice and bubbled, I'm going to simply take it off the heat, add 2 tablespoons of butter, a little vanilla, and then a dash of salt. And this is my salt shaker. I have my daughter do all these little sayings on it. Whoa, here we got some action. All right, this is what we want, this nice caramel color with bubbling. So you want this to cook for 2 or 3, 4 minutes. You want it to kind of thicken without burning. I don't think there's any hard signs to it. It starts to smell delicious and you kind of know it's just getting done because it's getting thicker. So I'm going to kind of prep my teaspoon here. What do I need? I need about 2 teaspoons of vanilla. You could always do a little bit less, but I think you just can't go wrong with. So see how this is nice and bubbly? That's what you're looking for. So it's only been bubbling for about a minute or two. I'm gonna let it bubble just a little bit longer, and then we're gonna take it off the heat and finish it up. It's that fast. Okay, so now you can see it's bubbling. It's very runny, which is okay. Caramel sauce is quite runny when it's nice and warm, and then of course as it cools it thickens. So any extras you put in the fridge will be very thick, and you can use it like that, I guess, but I never do. I always heat mine up in the stove or the microwave or whatever. So I'm gonna call this pretty much good to go. It's really runny, but it's nice and caramely when the bubbles are gone. So I'm gonna slide this up here, put this here, add my 2 tablespoons of butter and my 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Boy, that seems like a lot. Whew. We're gonna go for it. That's what my recipe says. And then a dash of salt. Okay. So I don't know if you could hear that sizzle when I added the vanilla. It was actually kind of sizzling. And you don't really want to add vanilla when you're cooking on the stove because it's basically an alcohol extract. And you don't want it to all burn off, basically. So you add it after the heat. So you can see my butter is almost melted, and now it's starting to look like a delicious caramel sauce because it's not bubbling on the stove. So caramel sauce this way is really fast and really easy. You need, what, 5 ingredients? I mean, it's just a really quick thing. I can feel that I got a little bit of sticky stuff on my pan, but that's what you're going for, is a nice, beautiful caramel sauce. So now, because I like it really hot, I'm gonna go ahead and serve it right onto my apples and call that dessert. So that's your caramel sauce, really fast. I'm gonna serve it over our Queen's apples. So if you had this over ice cream right now, it would really melt your ice cream, but on cheesecake or brownies, you can never have enough caramel sauce. So that is your Queen's apples. So 5 minutes, you have a lovely, delicious dessert. That's really quite fresh and healthy. Let me just pour my caramel sauce into my bowl here to keep it in the fridge. This will keep in the fridge for like, I don't know, a week or something. I mean, it usually doesn't last that long once I have caramel sauce in the house. But this is a really nice product to make that's box-free and really easy with simple ingredients. Okay, so there's our first recipe of the day. All right, now we're going to make kettle corn. So kettle corn is something that everybody loves to eat. You can get it at the fairs and the festivals, and it just seems like a really nice fall thing to make. So you want to start with a big pan. You want quite high heat. And for this, we're going to do equal amounts of coconut oil and equal amounts of sugar, and then twice as much popcorn. So I'm going to do a 1/4 cup. Where's my 1/4 cup? A 1/4 cup of coconut oil. So my coconut oil is firm. This is what it looks like right now. Plus it's a brand new jar, but coconut oil liquefies when it's 73 degrees, and it's firm when it's basically under 73 degrees. And it's not very warm in my house today, so it's solid. You could probably use olive oil for this recipe, but I think that the coconut oil has a higher burn temperature, so it can take the high heat of the stove, and it doesn't smoke at such a high heat. Okay, so there's my 1/4 cup. So I'm going to add this to my pan, which is already nice and hot. and then you have to just wait a few minutes. Kettle corn is something that you can actually make like a day ahead of time and then bring to a party or whatever. It's kind of a fun potluck thing or a party food to bring because it serves just as well the next day. So we have to wait for our oil to get hot before we add our popcorn. And then we're gonna hope that we don't burn our kettle corn. This is all about kind of hearing when you're done. You wanna make sure that you pull it off before it starts to burn, but you want all your kernels to pop. So we'll wait a minute for our coconut oil to melt and get hot. Okay, our coconut oil has been heating on our pan for a while. It feels quite hot. So the way you make kettle corn is you drop one kernel in. You basically wait for it to pop, and once it pops, then you know it's ready. So I'm going to get my sugar ready. Once my test kernel pops, then I add all my other ingredients, which is a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/2 cup of popcorn. You wait for my kernel to pop. It looks like it's bubbling. Okay, now if you had a popcorn maker popper thing that you like put the lid on and stir it around, that'd be really handy for this because you have to keep it moving on the bottom. So I'm gonna have to just sit and shake it, but it works fine to make it like that. You just need a nice big pan. So let's wait for our kernel to pop. Okay, it just popped. Haha. So now sprinkle in our sugar. Sprinkle in our popcorn. So you kind of mix them up together like this a little bit. Now you know your oil is hot. Put on your lid. Get your oven mitts. And we're gonna just shake it a little bit. Make sure your heat stays nice and hot. So you only need about 30 seconds or a minute for your popcorn kernels to get hot because you know your oil is already hot. So this point is not so important to shake and keep it moving, but once it starts popping, then it's really important to keep your popcorn moving on the bottom of your pan. And I think that's gonna slow down my cooking process a little bit. But we just keep waiting for it to get really loud with all the popping. Like that. Some people do add salt when they're adding their sugar and their popcorn, but I just don't. I guess I've never really thought that I needed it in my kettle corn. But if you think that it's not salty enough, you could just add like 1/2 teaspoon or maybe, yeah, probably 1/2 teaspoon or a teaspoon. Oh, there we go. We got some good sizzle now. And you can smell the caramel kind of coming through and the sweetness of the sugar. So you know it's cooking. You just want to keep it going till it stops making all this noise. That's what we're looking for. So this is also a really fast recipe to make. Instead of just having regular popcorn, you can have kettle corn. And if you had a bigger pan, you could make a bigger batch. Here it's constantly popping. I'm gonna wait for it to be done. That's how I know. Because I don't want to open my lid. I could, but then I think it'd go all over, which is kind of fun to do with the campfire. If you have a little popcorn maker at the campfire, you take the lid off and then you make your popcorn and it goes flying all over, and then our dog like runs around the campsite trying to find it. It's pretty funny. So that's a way you can have fun at the campfire with popcorn, or just you put the lid on it and then have popcorn at the fire when you're camping. That's pretty fun. Okay, it's pretty much done. So turn down my stove a little bit. I can still hear it popping, but my pan is really full. It doesn't really shake or move very much. So I'm going to kind of hold it off the heat because my pan is still hot enough to let those last few kernels pop, but not burn the rest of my popcorn? We'll find out. Okay, I think that's it. So we lift up the lid. The lid is all full of sugar. And then, oh, you can just see how it's kind of sticking together because of that nice sugar. Whoopsie. There's a nice glop of sugary caramelized popcorn. Maybe I should use a wooden spoon for this, boy. Okay. So that's your delicious caramel corn. You can see in the pan how it all kind of started to caramelize and cook, and my pan is still very hot and smoking. But that's it. You serve this up and it's delicious. Okay, so we have made our kettle corn and our Queen's apples. So now let's make candied pecans. And candied pecans could go on top of either of these things. You could put them on top of your caramel apples, or you could mix them into your kettle corn. I'm just making them today because it seems to go with the theme. And because it's really fast. And these are a nice thing to give like as a Christmas gift or something, or a teacher's gift at the end of the school year. It's kind of a fun, different thing to give away. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of pecan halves. You could do any kind of nut, I suppose, but I don't know. Pecans are very kind of special nut and rich and yummy. So what we're doing here is just toasting them. We really don't want them to get too toasted or too burnt. You don't want a burnt flavor at all. You just want a little bit of a toasted, hot, not spicy hot, but warm temperature. Warm taste, I mean. It's really important when you're making candied pecans that you use a stainless steel pan. You do not want to use a Teflon pan, a nonstick pan, because you need that metal, that hot metal, to actually toast and kind of get the heat right onto your pecans. So you don't want a Teflon pan. You need a non-stick. I mean a stainless steel for sure. And plus when you do your caramel sauce, it gets really kind of messy, and I don't know, stainless steel is just better. Okay, so still isn't quite as toasty as I want, so I'm going to wait just another minute. When you're toasting your pecans, you can taste them also if you're not sure if they're getting done enough. And the other thing is, if you don't know if they're getting toasted, it's okay. You don't even have to toast them all that much. I mean, I suppose you wouldn't even have to toast them, but I like to. I like to try to toast them. I don't know. So they've been cooking here for another minute longer. I think I might call them done. I like to put my hand on top just to see if I can feel how hot it is. I mean, that feels hot, but this doesn't feel very hot. But I am going to put them back into my bowl for now, because you need just a place to keep them while you're preparing your caramel. Okay, so those will just sit and wait for us. Now in here, you're going to do 1/2 cup of brown sugar again. And this, I really don't think you need the dark sugar for, but whatever. If that's what you had in your house, then you can use it. We're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. So I've got my adjustable measuring spoons here. So I need 1/4 teaspoon, about like that. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay. And I'm putting it right on top of my brown sugar because I don't want my spice to burn onto my hot pan. Then I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of water. Okay, here's my 2 tablespoons. Woo! So where's my spoon? Okay, so I feel like all my water's evaporated. Don't you guys think that? Like it was so hot. So I'm gonna add some more because this is just not enough water. So hang on. I'm gonna wait just a minute because this is looking okay. You can smell the cinnamon in there. It makes it really kind of a nice flavor. So where my brown sugar was sitting is kind of stuck, so I'm going to work on that area. But you basically are just stirring this until your sugar crystals dissolve into your water. You get a nice caramely smell, and the cinnamon, oh, it's just so much better. I'm going to add just a touch of more water. That's maybe a teaspoon worth. And now my pan is maybe a little too hot, but I'm going to just go with it. My one pan is, there we go, now I got it released. Okay. So you just work up your brown sugar. Now you can see it's actually bubbling and cooking. So I've made homemade caramels before and they are delicious, but you need a candy thermometer and you basically wait for all this bubbling action to happen with your brown sugar and your whipped cream and your butter. They are absolutely delicious. Maybe I'll make them someday on here. They're very time consuming, but they are so worth it. We've given them to my husband a lot on Father's Day, homemade caramels, and they're just so good. So what you're looking for is a nice bubble like this. You want to cook it just about 2 or 3 minutes, which I think is pretty close to what it's been. See how nice and delicious and caramelized it looks? Even though it's not a true caramelization because we started with brown sugar, but I'm okay with that. It's going to be delicious. So at this point, I think you're ready to add your nuts back into your pan. And then you basically stir it to coat them. Actually, I'm going to turn my heat off. And you don't actually want a lot of coating on these because, I mean, it's like solid sugar, so you don't need a lot of coating. You just want enough that each nut has at least something. And there we have it. That's what it looks like. So I'm just realizing if I pour that onto my metal pan, it's going to stick really badly, I think. So I think what I'm going to do is get my stoneware out. This won't stick as badly. So I'm just going to pour this out. And you can see how they're sticking together like that. So yummy. And if they stick together in clumps, that's perfectly fine. That's okay. And there, you can see this is all stuck on here. It's all caramelized and yummy. You let those cool because you can't eat them right now. They're just way too hot. But that's it. They are delicious on your kettle corn or on your Queen's apples. Now I want to show you, since it's been a couple minutes, here's my caramel sauce. I'm going to get a clean spoon. This is how much thicker it's gotten just sitting for the 5 or 10 minutes that we've been cooking together. So now if you put it on apples, it wouldn't be quite as runny and it's still quite warm. So this is your caramel sauce. So thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed Box Free with Stephanie. I hope you make some of these delicious fall meals or snacks, I guess. It's not really a meal. And I hope you enjoy cooking from scratch, and we will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.